My name is Meenakshi Shedde. I'm India and South Asia delegate to the Berlin Film Festival, independent curator, and Golden Globes international voter. It's a very great honor to present you the team behind this most beautiful film that you've seen, Mukti Bhawan, Hotel Salvation. The director, Shubhashish Bhutiani.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. And the producer, Sanjay Bhutiani.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions to ask and views to share about this very moving film, astonishing for its nuance, especially because it's a debut feature. So feel free to put your comments or questions in the chat box. I'd like to start off by asking Shubhashish, what was the germ of the idea that led to this magnificent screenplay? What was it that inspired the film?
I think I'm gonna answer a little bit in retrospect because my answers changed over the years now. I had just come back to India after being away for 4 or 5 years, studying film, and I was making my films and stuff. And I think I was in this process of kind of rediscovering my own family as well and rediscovering the country with fresh eyes. I mean, I'd left it when I was 18 and I'd come back when I was 23. And I think this film has a lot of the preoccupations that I had. So anyway, I think, so what ended up happening was I just wanted to travel around India, and I was with a friend, and I'd heard about these hotels where people are going to die in Banaras, real ones. And I was like, we have to go see what there is here. And it was honestly first as a tourist. You know, the first time I heard about it was as a tourist. But when I got there, I met these wonderful, colorful people. Actually, the manager, the first person I met was the manager. And I went to his office and I saw that there was a rule board outside. And it started making me laugh. There's all these rules that you can't eat non-veg, you can't bring this, you can't bring that. And I was like, this is a place where people are coming to die, you know? And I don't know, that place just stayed with me after I returned from my trip. And I, started reading up on it. I started writing some notes down, and somewhere it was just born quite organically after, with all these things that were happening with things that I was thinking about and what I was experiencing in life. I think that was what happened. Yeah.
Very beautiful. I just want to backtrack slightly to just place the film in context. So this film opened at the Venice Film Festival in the Biennale College Cinema. And it had, Shubhashish had already won, he already had a short film called Kush at the Venice Film Festival and won a best short prize in the Orizzonti section. And this film actually went to 90 festivals around the world, Hotel Salvation. It's been literally to the Venice Festival, to the Busan Festival, Dubai, San Francisco festivals. It has won 30 awards all over the world, including for Best Film, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Actor, Best Cinematographer. He won 2 national awards, special mention for Best Film and for Best Actor. He won the UNESCO Gandhi Medal and the Prix Enrico Fulcignoni at Venice. So, and I think above all, in addition to all this, it was distributed in 50 countries worldwide, practically unheard of, even for a major Bollywood film with all the stars and all the trimmings. So it's really an extraordinary achievement. So I'd like to ask Sanjay, also particularly because it was in the Biennale College Cinema section of Venice, which is like a micro budget kind of workshop related thing where you get script mentoring, co-production mentoring, support to make the film, and then the film kind of gets selected. So it's kind of like a turnkey A to Z thing, but it was a very, very micro budget. So how did you actually pull off such a wonderful thing in such a tiny budget? What did it take?
Shubhashish always calls it a love budget film. So for the love of it, everybody got on board. And they all knew we had very little money to produce this film. And they knew a great platform it had the potential to go to on Venice Film Festival. So I'd like to believe that everybody contributed to making this film. And it all started from this beautiful idea Shubhashish told me about. And the mentors in Biennale College Cinema, everybody was, they were from different parts of the world, from America to Europe to South America and many, many countries. And they all connected with this idea very beautifully. And that kind of strengthened our conviction and belief that this was a very universal story that had to be told. And that's what Shubhashish did so beautifully.
Lovely. But I think it's, to believe in a film is one thing, but I think it really takes very hard, kind of dogged market expertise and risk-taking, I think, to make a delicate film, India is full of, I always call India like a graveyard of good cinema, especially indie cinema. There are so many beautiful independent films, but very few match distribution in 50 countries, including, I think, 25 countries where you have theatrical release. Like, that is astonishing. Tell us a little about your strategy that made, because in my head, it's kind of almost in the league of Lunchbox, Ritesh Batra's film, which kind of is the kind of touchstone indie film known in the West. And to me, this is really in that league as well. So what kind of innovative strategy did this need for you to get there?
See, I come from an advertising background. I was an advertising professional, and we found a believer in the film, in the sales agent, who was like chasing us for 3 months saying, I want this film very badly. It has the potential. And I think what we call is consumer pull, we said that we should invest more money into this film. And the first place we went to was Berlin Film Festival. We attended the Berlin Film Market. And we had a great experience. The sales agent had done a lot of hard work there, invited distributors, and I saw, distributors from South Africa and all coming out of the screening crying and saying, I want this film. And it was a great beginning. We signed about 6, 7 deals, 8 deals. We advertised the film quite well. And then we went to Cannes, the Marshudi film, and there we signed about 15, 20 deals. More homework was done between those 3, 4 months. It just started connecting with people,
Fantastic.
And we just took advantage of the momentum, great support from the sales agent, the team
This
there.
is sales, international sales, right?
That's right.
Okay.
So I would give a lot of credit to them, to Marina, who personally looked into it and really helped us push it through.
Lovely. Shubhashish, I'd like to ask you, because it is such a delicate, very tricky subject. And when you like to, I think that one of the most challenging and most beautiful things about the film is it's talking for a heavy subject like death, but with an ironic, wry, and very light, even lightly humorous at times. And this is what makes it so exquisitely appealing. And in India, of course, there are many places where death is even celebrated with firecrackers, booze, and big celebration parties. So there are many ways of approaching death. And in your film, it somehow seems also like death is not a finality, but a kind of a return to source in a way. I don't know if you were influenced by Advaita philosophy, which says that all life, including God and you and me and everyone, is the same consciousness. I don't know. So tell us a little more about how your screenplay, how the idea of death evolved in your screenplay from the first draft to later.
Well, I think from a humor, what you're talking about was, I think all the humor was inbuilt in the idea itself. I'm personally attracted to comedy a lot. It's what gives me relief. Yeah. And I found the humor in the absurdity of the situation. And you found more and more. I didn't know people, there's a cow donation that takes place when people think they're going to leave. And you find it in the imagery of it. There is a kind of absurdity to it all that, and a lot of it also comes from the characters, which is not something maybe that, it's not a documentary in terms of documenting that emotion, where a girl is just clicking pictures of her grandfather while he's saying, I'm going to go die. So I think that's the sweet little moments that just come up in the writing. And so I think it's to be honest, I don't know where it comes from, but I think that's where the film's world met my world a little bit, where I could kind of also express myself through the film. And but the film was also speaking to me to give me Banaras and give me the characters and give me the actors and, these situations where they're coming. So for me, it was just, finding the thematic of it. And also when you go to Varanasi, you see that people treated death like they were talking about something very offhand. Every remark was offhand. And I think trying to capture that in the film rather than trying to treat it in a way where there's a lot of philosophical discussion maybe going on constantly, because I didn't want the film to feel too cerebral at the same time, where, or weighty in a certain way. I wanted it to have this kind of casualness that I felt while I was there. So
lovely. Too lovely. We have a question from a film student in Montreal. She says, is there a significance to the mention of animals, elephants, lion, kangaroo, in addition to the cows on screen?
I mean, I think actually, now that I think about it, it was not conscious. It just kept coming up in the situations, and I think where, in India, we have death and rebirth. So I think I felt that that was a natural question to kind of a natural thing, because I mean, the cycle of, rebirth has this animal thing, and it was an improvised scene with the actors and me. Like we were discovering that scene as we go along, and the cow donation happens, again, naturally it just comes into the story. The elephant one, actually, I was in Biennale Cinema College, and I met a Taiwanese girl there, and she read the script and she was really moved by it, and she said, can I talk to you? And we went for a walk, and she shared the anecdote to me about the elephants.
Okay.
And when she told me that, I was so moved by what she was telling about like how elephants just kind of leave the herd and they go by themselves to the graveyard. I was so touched by it, and I wrote it down in my notes one day, and I was like, this has to make its way in the screenplay somehow. There's no reason why somebody else will not maybe have that piece of, why one of the people in the Mukti Bhavan will not have that piece of information. So it's okay, so that felt
beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful. I think one of the lovely things, especially because you were kind of, in a way, as you said, looking at India from the outside inside. It was kind of this coming back to and exploring in a way also. So for me, it was very special that you made it, set the film in Varanasi, which is like, for me, the most kind of red alert zone. If there's French money making an Indian film, I mean, there are a huge number of Indo-French co-productions for decades now. There's France Youth, there's CNC, etc., etc. There's a fantastic platform like Film Bazaar, where a lot of international funding comes for Indian films. And they have this big thing about Varanasi and the reincarnation, and they go on and on. They want to look at it in a certain way. And, they need to see all these million lights and the Ganga aartis and the spectacular and, death, like corpses burning. And, they have certain visual, let's say, stereotypes, which they need to fund it and for it to appeal to a French audience. And you didn't have any of that. And I find it very interesting, although you still came from the outsider insider perspective, right? So were you conscious of something like that, what people expect? And did you not have to deal with any of that because Sanjay was producing and you didn't have to deal with any international nonsense? Or I'm also curious, like, because I would imagine you had a creative partnership with your team people. So you had foreigners, right? There were your alumni, I think, from School of Visual Arts in New York, who shot the film, 2 cinematographers. Were they Americans?
One was American and one was Swiss.
Right. So they would again see it from the outside. So tell us your interaction. How did they respond to the way you were shooting it?
Well, I think, more than Varanasi, while Varanasi was the larger context of the place, I think our film was set in one building almost. The majority of the film was in one building. So that really kind of gave us the perfect framework to be really personal with the space. It wasn't even about Varanasi. It was, so the one time you do go out maybe is when the family decides to go out on a very touristy kind of little excursion of sorts. So I think the other thing that helped us was the fact that the characters themselves were not from there. They're coming here. They're also fish out of water in the situation. So that helped us to have the kind of the similar emotion of looking at it like the characters did, and we were kind of conscious, but we weren't like, we will not see the ghats, we will not see the river. We didn't feel that because it's part of the city, and to kind of at one point that was being discussed because we had a location that was not a building by the river, and we were like, no, it'll maybe it'll like look too much like a postcard film and all this stuff. And we were like, no, it's part of the city, it's beautiful, it's something, it gives a certain feeling, it gives the Ganga gives a spiritual feeling to you when you're even there. It has that magnetic force, and we mustn't ignore it, Otherwise the film would feel too claustrophobic and things like that as well. And that's not how the city feels like to me in certain parts, and what is and wasn't what the film was trying to communicate, like talk about as well. So so that's, I hope that answers your question, but that's kind of how we went about it.
Sure. There's a question from a social worker in Hamilton in Ontario. She works
Mm-hmm.
with the elderly. She says, is the tradition of preparing for death at the Ganges River something that belongs to the older generation, or will this continue in the decades to come?
I mean, I am not sure. I am not sure at all, but I'm not sure. I won't say. But I think because at the same time, while India's moving towards modernism and time is moving towards modernism, there is a large section of Indian society that also holds on to tradition very strongly and culture very strongly. So while I don't see it maybe completely dying out, I think it might be a lineage or a belief in a family that might drive people. It won't be. I don't ever see it becoming like it's not a popular thing at all. It's even absurd for us, the whole situation.
Yeah.
So it won't be. I don't think it's ever going to be for many people. But yeah, I think people who families that believe in it might, it might be something that carries on. Yeah.
Sure. I was very fascinated by the screenplay, of course, is completely brilliant, but I thought a particular highlight also was the dialogues by Asad Hussain. They were just so good, and they conveyed so much in very few words, not even lines, but very few words. And I think that was also one of the big strengths of the film, conveying a lot while saying very little. It kind of also gave people space to absorb this, right? So, like in this beginning, the mom is saying, "Huh, kitne din jayenge? Like, how many days are you going to go?" Like, it's kind of like asking, after in how many days will he die? This is recurring question also. You die in 15 days, and that is so funny. But it's always a kind of deadpan humor. It's poker faced, and it's not funny, but it's so richly ironic. So did you have to work a lot with initial drafts that finally compressed what you're saying into few words? It's just so masterly. How did that work?
Yeah, I think the humor was always there. It was always, something I wanted the film to feel like, definitely. And the black humor and stuff, it's definitely something we wanted. And we worked very hard to take out as much dialogue during the process. The
Wonderful.
first draft of my film was double the size of what we ended up shooting. So it was always about taking out lines, being economical, still having a feeling in the scene, and also telling the characters that while a situation is funny for us, it's not for you. So you have to play it. You have to play it in the moment. Like, it's funny for us because we're watching you, but it's not funny for you. You're living in that moment. And I think life's kind of like that, where if many people saw my life, I think they would think it's a comedy, I think, many times. So, but I don't think it's funny.
I'd like to ask Sanjay, was it quite tricky for you being producer and dad? Was it hard to keep the dad role aside?
You
And were
can
you
be
happy,
honest.
or
You
were
can
you
be
being
honest.
ultra tough?
For me, it was a proud moment, honestly. I was like on seventh heaven that I'm getting this opportunity to produce my son's first feature film. Yeah, we both faced challenges, interacting between us. So we were always trying to find a mediator who could help communicate certain things, because we were mixing up dad and producer and director and son role, sometimes. But I think we pulled it through. And actually, after 2 years of producing and what happened to the film, one day we sat down, we said we both did a good job. So that
Oh,
was the end of it. you know. So both of us respectively did our best, and whatever came out of it. And of course, he made a great film. So that was really, really inspiring for me to go ahead and do my best. Then the
wonderful.
ball was in my court.
Yeah. Is the ball in your court
Yeah.
again for his next? Can you tell us anything at all about your new next project? Or because it's been a gap, and I think, of course, there's been COVID and everything, but
Yeah. So his short film was dealing with children, you know, so kids under 10. And then this film was the other extreme, where, the lead cast and everybody was like 60, 70 plus. So now I think his next film would be something with youth. So complete departure from both. And I think that's and I think, yeah. So I don't know where it'll go. Like, he can answer better what he thinks, but I'm loving it, and I'm very excited to produce it.
lovely. You
Support
want to
among
share
us.
anything,
Yeah.
Shubhashish, about your new project?
No, I don't like
Early.
talking about stories until they happen. But I'm very excited because I think the most fun I'm going to get to have. So I'm really hoping I can do it and I can have fun doing it, because yeah, I think the other ones I had a lot of fun making them, but sometimes you go into it can be difficult as well. So I think this one I'll be allowed to be more free in expression and learn and be more expressive, let's say, in the film. Yeah.
Lovely. One last quick question from Cynthia in Sudbury, Ontario. The contrast of the religious hymns and watching communally the TV show was one of the many lovely moments. Was Flying Saucers a real TV show? If so, why was it so popular?
No, sorry. I just wanted to fulfill my dream of writing a soap opera. So so we wrote a fake soap opera called Flying Saucers, and we had a lot of fun making that. It was just that was for me. That was for me to have fun. Yeah.
Very charming.
That and the Skype scene were both mine. Like they were. I don't know. Yeah. So I enjoyed both.
Very fun. We hope you have lots of fun, both of you, in your next film, because I think when you enjoy a film, that feeling also is infectious and gets the audience as well. Thank you for making a most beautiful movie, for sharing your time with us. And thank you particularly to Judy Gladstone for inviting all of us and sharing very special time this morning. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Meenakshi.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
आयु
77।
टीवी तो नहीं है?
नहीं
मांस मछली तो नहीं खाते हैं?
जी, अभी तक तो नहीं।
आपको ऐसा तो लगता है कि आपका समय आ गया?
तुम्हें कैसे पता चला उनका टाइम आ गया?
शायद पता चल जाता होगा।
मैं चाहता हूँ कि इससे पहले मुझे कुछ हो, बनारस चला जाऊँ।
बाबा, वो ऑफिस में थोड़ा काम।
तो मुझे टैक्सी में बिठा देना, मैं अपने आप चला जाऊँगा। इतना समय है ना तुम्हारे पास?
नाम मुक्ति भवन है। कमरा सिर्फ 15 दिन के लिए मिलता है बस।
बस 15 दिन? उसके बाद?
अगर ऊपर चले गए तो ठीक है, नहीं तो फिर घर वापस जाइए।
ये है मोक्ष।
वापस चलो ना।
छोड़।
कितने दिन रहोगे यहाँ पे?
चिंता मत करो, उनको जल्दी ही मुक्ति मिल जाएगी।
मैं चाहता हूँ तुम मुझे धूमधाम से विदा करना।
मन की मानो, मन की जानो, मन सच्चा, बाकी सब झूठा।
अब तो मैं आत्मा हूँ।